welcome to another vlogging episode of the Everyday Life of a Mage. Okay, so in the last vlog we did talk about we were wanting to get these started back up, and we covered a few topics, and one of the things I mentioned was that I'd be starting to talk a little bit about how I use the scientific method or process, slightly modified, in order to help me with my magical practice and to gather the data that I use and to apply it to a results-based practice, not spiritual or faith. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Now, it is early here, and I was hoping to get shooting before all the noise, but it sounds like everyone's up and about early, so I apologize. I'm going to try and work around the noise as best I can. All right. So let's discuss the scientific method real fast. Okay, so real fast, what is the simplicity of the scientific method? What is the items that you should have in it? A lot of people don't know this, so I think we should start there. The scientific method would follow a general order of ask a question, research your topic, make a hypothesis. Test your hypothesis with an experiment of some kind. Based upon the experiment, you got to ask yourself, is the experiment working? And then, of course, you have a yes or no outlet here for the process. If the answer is no, then you're going to have to tweak and fix the experiment and or procedure. If the answer is yes, now you're going to be analyzing your data to draw your conclusions. Okay, that's very important. Now, as you're analyzing your data, you also have 2 points here. Do the results actually and truly align with your hypothesis? If the answer is yes, that's great. Communicate those results somehow. Record them, make sure you have them, share them with colleagues and allies. If the results do not align with your hypothesis, however, that's okay. The data can still be utilized in order to aid in future experiments and testing and research. The data is still viable for use as to show what has been done previously. It can still be used as new projects or new experiments are being tried, and as you begin to ask new questions or form new hypotheses. Okay? Which would simply jump you straight back up to the making a new hypothesis on your current research or working. That is the basic scientific method as it stands, right? Okay, so let's go through this. I have some notes here to keep me on track somewhat, because this is a big topic. So, how would you do this? Some of the things will indeed stay the same. And actually, you don't really have to change as much as you're going to think. It really surprised me coming into this and attempting to utilize this in my practice. I thought I was really going to have to change a lot of the scientific method because spirituality, magic, and science just really don't mesh too well together in reality. I know we got a lot of people trying to say science proves magic. And unfortunately, that is not the case. There's a lot of people misquoting science. But when it comes to the scientific method, this is a method of procedural and critical thinking that can be applied very, very well. Now, ask a question / goal of the working. That's where we're going to start. So when we are beginning an experiment, we will have a question or we will have a goal based upon what we're researching and what we are doing magically. That really stays the same if you think about it. In scientific method, it's the question. In magic, it's a question or a goal that you're trying to reach and or manifest. Okay. The next stage is, once you know this, you need to research your topic. Again, this step actually stays the same. This is how we begin to build out our ideal of process and see what pre-existing information, if any, is out there. And this has been clutch to my research and my practice. This is why I do a lot of reading and try to figure out what has been done previously, what is out there, In Magick, we also have to apply a critical eye to it and ask if we agree with it based on other materials we've read, because you will find drastically varying opinions in this area of research. The data can be colored by path, it can be colored by religion, it can be colored by spirituality, it can just be colored by personal preference. So we do have to read this information with a critical eye and be asking questions of what we think of these things. Again, sorry about the jets. Okay, so after we've done our research, after we got our notes, after we know what's already out there, now we want to make our hypothesis, or in Magick, you want to outline a spell or a ritual and collect data in your journal for whatever your goal is or what you're trying to manifest. Now, and you're going to have to ask yourself, what is it that you're going to be using as your data points during your hypothesis as well when you're setting this up? Because you're going to need to be able to show some form of manifestation, some form of testing that you can record. Sometimes it will be a very personal gnosis experiential thing, and that's fine in Magick. In science, that doesn't necessarily always work, but in other spell workings, like if you're doing prosperity and you're trying to get your bank account so that after you've paid all your bills, you still have an easy 500 after your bills, your standard expenses, groceries, even having fun money, go out and do something per payday, you'd still have $500. Well, that $500 is a very tangible data point that you can work toward. And that is something that can be recorded very easily, and you can see if your spell work is bringing you to that point or not. Now, next is testing the hypothesis. This in Magick is where we perform the working, okay? We are actually going to do the working, the spell, the ritual, and we are going to record our notes, our experiences, everything that goes into that spell. Are you doing a candle spell? Make sure you note that. What color candle did you use? Why did you use it? Anything that you use in the spell, you need to record and record why you chose to use it. That is very important. A lot of people will jot it down saying, I'm doing a prosperity spell, green candle. Okay, what if you wrote down prosperity spell, red candle? Why did you choose green over red? Or why would you choose red over green? What is your reasoning behind the items you're putting in there? You need to have this recorded in your journal, in your workings as you're doing this if you truly want to use the scientific method. Because when you read back over these notes a few months later, you need to remember why you chose those things. And having it recorded there is going to tell you exactly why. You have all the data points in there. There's nothing in the spell working that's just, everything has a point, everything has a purpose. Make sure you're recording it. And if you don't know why you're putting it there, ask yourself if it's actually needed if you can't answer that question. Because oftentimes our spell work is overclouded by so many bells and whistles, we overcomplicate it and get no results. So this is also a nice time to start actually understanding, do you know what you're doing? Do you understand what you're doing? Because that's actually very important in Magick. And of course, like I said, we're going to collect all this data in our journal. Now the next step in the scientific process is the experiment working. Okay, what's this mean for us magically? Did the working manifest the desired result, or a result? If so, what? Now, I've said before, my practice is results based. It is a results focused practice. What does that mean? That means if I do a prosperity spell, I am going to have my results. I'm going to have it focused. I'm going to have a very specific goal in mind, and I want to see it yielding results. I want to see it moving me toward that point, or I want to see it yielding that exact point. Back to the prosperity spell example, if I know I want that extra cash sitting in my bank account every month, which is something I did do with my prosperity spell, the long-term prosperity spell that I shared on this channel. I grew my cash reserves in just such a manner because I could track it. Now, month to month, it was a little harder to see. But after about 6 months, I saw a steady trend line. And within the first year of that particular spell process, mine and my wife's financial situation completely turned around. we were living in the red, and we were now every month in the black and having reserves, something we'd never had our entire lives. So these were data points that I could track. So if my goal was to have that extra 500, the question is, if I'm in the red and I'm doing this working, is it yielding a result? And if that result is an extra 25 or 50 and I'm watching that grow, then I am seeing a result. The question then becomes, what can I do to increase the result? What can I do to improve the working? What can I do to really focus it in, tighten it up, make it more efficient, if you will, make it more reliable, and start tweaking the process. That's all part of it. To what extent did the work manifest a result to reach your goal, if any? This is kind of touched on in the last point as well. And again, if it did nothing to work toward your goals and your results within the time frame that you gave to your experiment, okay, now you got to ask yourself, are you willing to extend the time frame? If the answer is no, then you're going to have to ask yourself, how can you change the process? There's only two sides of the equation we can work on. One's going to be the actual process in which we're applying the actual procedures, and one is the time frame. The time frame is actually the harder one to adjust, especially at beginning levels, because until you truly gain a true knowledge of your ability, your processes, and you know you're pushing that energy in there and you have confidence in your abilities, it's really hard to mess with this time frame too much. Most spell workings, I would say, give anywhere from 1 to 3 months. 3 months being preferred for beginners. And even then, it can still take longer for some things. You may actually do a spell and realize it manifests much later after your deadline. So that time frame can be a hard one at the beginning, but the process is always something we can work on by refocusing it and all that. Now, the next thing that we do come to is analyzing the data and drawing conclusions. Examine the data of the working. So after all said and done, the time frame's expired, you've gotten all the data. This is when you sit down and you're going to look at this, and all the data is going to be based on data. Did you manifest the results you wanted? How many times have you performed this work? What are the percentages of it yielding the results that you wanted? This number is important. When I say the percentage of manifestations, this is an important number magically for anyone who wants to approach magic in a scientific manner. Now, there are a lot of variables in magic that it's almost impossible to control every single one and truly isolate it the way we would in a scientific experiment. And this is important to understand, because instead of a singular process that constantly yields the same result, we have to account for some uncontrolled variables. And this is why I use this percentage. This is the best way I've found to do it. I'm always looking for a better way, but so far I've not found it. And by allowing for this percentage, this allows me to know how often, if I do this spell, if I do this ritual, how often will it yield the results I'm looking for when I do the spell work. Me personally, any working I do or spell that I record that I count as a functional spell has to yield the result I'm looking for 85% or more. Every time I do it, it has to work 85% of the time or better, okay? A lot of magicians I know say that's crazy, Drake. That's setting your expectations too high on your magic. My response to that is, if magic is real, if this stuff works, why is that a high expectation? I honestly do not feel that's a high expectation. And I really, personally feel this is why a lot of people don't get the results. I've found that the more you leave yourself an easy way out for failure, the more you leave yourself an easy way out for your magic just not working, every excuse that you give it not to work, it's going to take it. That's just my feelings on the matter. That's also why I don't subscribe to the my spell didn't work because it wasn't in my greater good. I don't give a shit about my greater good. If I'm doing the magic to provide for me and reach a result, I want the magic to do what I'm doing. Greater good be damned. So the concept of the greater good controlling my destiny, I don't buy into it. I really don't. And I personally find that as a crutch or even a cop-out for something you didn't work, so it just kind of protects your feelings. I know that's a controversial statement. I know there's a lot of people not going to like it, and I do understand there's a lot of people who do believe in fate and destiny and greater goods and all that stuff. Again, this channel is based on results, and it is based more on a scientific side, not a spiritual or religious side. So it'd be kind of ridiculous for me to claim that I don't do religion and spiritual, but then believe in the universe itself allowing or not allowing me to do what is in my best interest. It takes my free will away, and I'm not down with that. That's very tyrannical. That is the removal of free will, and no, I'm not going to go with that. So I do require very high numbers. In fact, even at the 85%, I will continue to work with a spell and try to improve its percentages and continue to experiment with it throughout my career. Now, after I have all this data, after I've calculated up my percentage of success, okay, if that percentage of success is below 85%, I got work to do. That is not a functional spell in my mind to my practice. Now, you may have a slightly lower percentage of success rate. The percentage of success rate that you choose for your workings is up to you. Though I personally tell my students not to go below 65 or 70, because honestly, if you go to 50-50, you are pretty much flipping a coin, and it could be coincidental. So you kind of have to stay on that higher end. Which brings you to the next step in the scientific method. Did the working get you your goal, and how close to your goal or past it did you get? This is essentially, after analyzing the data, after calculating the data, we are now wanting to know, where did we manifest? Did it manifest exactly what we're wanting? Did it manifest slightly under what we wanted? Did it manifest over what we wanted? Or did nothing happen at all? This is where we're really putting down, and we're making sure we understand where we're at, and we're answering that question. And this can be a simple yes or no, but I do like to, with Magick, I like to understand, did it manifest, yes or no? And then what did it manifest and how, I think, are important in this area. Because, again, Magick, there are variables in there that we can play with and work with. So I do like to ask those questions. The next thing is, what changes can you make to refine the working to improve the manifestation results? See, this is what I'm talking about. I continue to refine and improve. If nothing happened at all, I go back to the original formula and I try to figure out, is there something I could add to it? Is there something to take away that possibly not making as much sense as it should? Could I spend more time in the ritual? Could I focus more energy? Different things like that you can add, move around, take away, increase or decrease, to potentially get the formula to function and get the results you're wanting. And once you have all this done, of course, we get to communicate results. This is pretty much you record your findings and your finished experiment. Now, to me, this is when it works. Either you've given up on it and you've considered this particular experiment done, you're done working on it, you don't think you're going to take it any further, whether it yielded results or not, or this is at the point where you have a functional ritual, you have a functional spell, it is reliable, it meets your criteria, and you are going to record it into your grimoire, your book of shadows, your journal, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be something you're going to keep through your career and possibly pass down. Or you could even share with trusted peers and have them also try it and see how it functions for them. Not all of us have peers we trust and want to share and test our own findings. Some of us do, some of us don't. That's understandable. For solo practitioners, you may only be able to rely on the percentages of manifestation. But again, that's okay, and that's one reason that percentage of manifestation is so important. Because let's be honest, it's your practice, and if your practice is working for you and it is yielding the results you're looking for and you're wanting, and you're living the life you want, you're doing it. That is it. everyone else's opinion be damned. You are doing it, and I'm proud of you. You keep doing what you're doing to improve your life. And that really is how I would sit down and I would apply this method every step of the way. Very simple, very straightforward, but it is about data. You have to have the data. You have to be willing to record it in your journal. You have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to accept failure along with your successes. And you have to look at failure not as actual failure, but the process needs to be altered. Something needs to be done. Something needs to be changed. And you need to keep working at it until you get it. That's the entire concept of this process here. Because if it doesn't work, that kicks us back up to that process where we have to rework the experiment in order to answer the question or reach the goal or spell working in which we're doing. Anyways, I know this is a little complicated, and that's one of the reasons I did try to avoid doing this video for a while, but it became so clear that this is a video we need to do. And perhaps I'll do another video on it at another time to further clarify it if need be. I hope you all enjoyed this. I think we lucked out and some of the noise quieted down while we were filming. But give this a shot. Try it out. And by all means, leave your comments. Let me know what you thought of the video. And until next time, I'm Drake. And this has been Working Dragon Mystic. Take care. I'm going to go get some breakfast. Bye-bye.